Yo, what's shaking AC?
All right, jumping right in here, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you consider yourself to be more of a revenue focused person or an expense focused person?
Well, I think you know the answer to that. I am a revenue focused person. When I spend money, I like to think, go forward, be fruitful, and multiply, and bring more revenue.
Hopefully, you're doing that right, not just spending it and hoping it happens.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is that, the more I get to talk to different people in business, and whether that's franchisors or franchisees, and or small business owners, it seems to me that they're like most people are kind of one or the other. And I my dad always would say this. I remember back in the day with Eminem, he'd say that, like, even with franchisees, that they're like these like revenue oriented or expense oriented. And I'll just clarify what I mean by this, I guess. That people that are revenue oriented, when especially when things get tough with their business, whether again franchisee or franchisor or whatever, their go-to is, how can I get more business? What do I need to do to go out there and get more business? And if I have to spend money to get more business, I'm willing to do that. And sometimes that can be good, and sometimes that can be bad. By the way, there's no like perfect answer here. I think we're both revenue oriented people. We trust that if we spend the money in the right places, we'll get it. But that's the key, is you don't want to just be dropping money everywhere. But the revenue oriented person is somebody that understands that you have to invest to grow. And an expense focused person is somebody that, and maybe there's crossover of this, but what I've seen is, like, if they're more expense focused, they're usually somebody that's a little bit more conservative. That their way of, like, okay, business is getting tough. Like, say in the pandemic, did you cut your costs, or did you spend more money on market? Some people spent more money on advertising, because even though they were afraid, but they knew this is going to come back at some point. And again, like, they're a little bit more risk taker, right? And then they spent the money because they knew also that right now, if I spend this money, there's more bang for my buck. Like, whereas other people are in panic going, I got to cut all my costs. If I don't, like, get all my expenses, all my costs as low as possible, then the world's going to fall apart. And so I think, both are important. I wouldn't say, just when I say I'm more revenue oriented, of course I look at my expenses and I know where we're at. But anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, it kind of scares me when people are when a founder is more expense focused. To me, that's just saying that they're probably not going to have big, like, exponential growth as a founder or business owner. I
Yes.
don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just going to stop there.
Okay.
I don't
Listen,
know.
I
What are your
think
thoughts?
I think there's pros and cons to both, right? The pro to being expense focused is you get to tighten up your balance sheet and your profit and loss statement, right? Have a
Mhm.
tighter running ship. The con to it is you're not growing. You're just saving costs. You're not growing. Now, on the flip side, if you're a revenue focused person, the pro is you're growing, but the con is sometimes your expenses can get out of hand in
You're
order
wasting
to
money.
foster this growth, right? But what I
Mhm.
like to look at, the way I see it, is that being dealing with your expenses, whether you're expense focused or not, dealing with expenses is a task. It's just a task. It requires very little innovation. It just requires logic. Hey, I'm spending money on something I don't need. Let's cut that. But to be growth focused is all entrepreneurship. So if you are a expense focused person, you're just the task person. You're going to sit there and check off tasks. If you are trying to grow your company and be an entrepreneur, you have to be revenue focused. And that danger of wasting money or spending it like irrationally or irresponsibly, that's just a task to do. Just sit down and be a little bit more cognizant of that.
Yeah, like, check the ROI of what you are spending. Like,
Yeah.
you need to assess what is the return on investment of all these expenses. But I just wanted to point something out. It's interesting that you actually just changed the wording to growth focused. I like that even better. So
Okay.
we're growth focused versus, like, cost focused or something. And I ultimately want to get to, like, there are times that you got to stop the bleed and cut your losses and business and stuff. But before we get there, um, when it's interesting because do you think, like, I don't know, this is just your thoughts, I can share mine, but a person that's more cost focused, there must like there must be ways that you can still, like, okay, say you're investing in paid advertising and it works and you just really focus on that cost, like you can still get some growth is what I was going to say. Like, because most businesses don't just stay, like stagnation equals like business death, right? Like you can't just stagnate it. There's kind of no such thing. Like you're either growing or you're not growing, which means you're usually like decreasing, right? So yeah, do you think that like someone could be more expense focused, maybe really just following like a system, thinking maybe of a franchisee here, investing in their marketing, doing a little bit of local community marketing, but more expense focused, and they could maybe be okay?
Yeah, I think it depends on the scenario. You know, like if things are really bad, like you got to do something, right? But I find a lot of expense focused people see the bottom line and they see, hey, I don't have enough money or I'm losing money. And then they just go up through the list and they figure out what can I cut? And usually they're
Right.
thinking the stuff that isn't immediately necessary. If I immediately have to pay rent and I immediately have to pay payroll, I cannot cut those things. But these other things, you know, I can cut them. I'm still open if I'm paying rent and payroll, right? But those
Yeah.
things are potentially the things that are taking you out of that rut and continuing the growth. It's making the decision whether if you want to have a floating ship and a sinking ship versus a ship that's moving forward, you know?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out when you said that, like, if when I think about when we were franchisees, if when I was a franchisee and in our stores we had a uniform program, and say we decided, okay, like things are tough right now. What can we do? What costs can we cut? If we started cutting, like we used to give away free samples in our store. If we started cutting labor costs too much, it would show. So like, okay, we're not going to do the samples anymore. Our labor, so now we have like less good customer service. And now, oh, well, let's see if we can stretch the uniforms out a little bit. Now the staff, the employees are wearing, worn out uniforms, and we can stretch the floor cleaning. We'll skip this round this month or this quarter. We normally get it cleaned professionally. We'll skip it, and all that starts to show, right? Like I think you can only get away with that for so long, and if on top of that you're not out doing things to grow your business, it's scary when you see franchisees go get there.
Yeah, I just finished reading The Wealthy Franchisee by Scott Greenberg, right? And one of
Mhm.
the things that he said is there are scenarios where you have franchisees that are in the same market with the same business with
Mhm.
everything the same, and it's still not working out for one of them and it is working out
Yeah,
for the other. And so the one that it's not working out for, they start blaming it on competitors, they start blaming it on like their physical facility or the location. And what
that's
he's
called.
yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's called the looking through the window instead of looking in the mirror.
Yes, yeah. But what he's found is what makes these franchisees wealthy specifically is more the soft things. Your team, your vision, your drive, all that sort of stuff. It's not where you're located for the most part. It's not your competitors, especially if you have a superior product. And you need to get over that. Because if you don't get
Mhm.
over that, you're going to sit there cutting costs thinking, I'll never get over it because you signed this lease and I'm in it for 10 years or 20 years. No, you know?
Mhm. I think then just real quick here regarding cutting your losses, what people ask me, like, how do I know when it's time to move on? And I think when you're done, when your mindset is one that is not to go out and do anything about this anymore, when you start to just look at your expenses and you can't envision yourself going out and drumming up business in whatever way you need to do, I think that's when you really need to say it's time to move on. And you might not even be able to sell your business. You might have driven it into the ground, sadly, which is so terrible to hear, but
Yeah,
and not intentionally, but sometimes that happens, which is so sad.
I hear you. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Okay, well, hopefully we didn't leave that on too sad of a note. Go be awesome.
Okay,
Yay. We're trying to be motivational here,
three,
not shitty. Okay.
2, 1. Go
Go
be
be
awesome.
awesome.